with Miss James, please.
This is Miss James speaking.
Hi, Miss James. We got your email last night, and I don't know if you got our email back, but we're doing interviews right now. Are you ready?
I'm hired. I'm desired. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Miss James. I'm an educator here in Bronx, New York City. I have been teaching for the past 4 years, going into my 5 years of teaching. My previous 4 years was in the middle school science education, and now I am making that shift into the high school realm. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some of my advice, my best advice on how to secure that new teaching position. I'm a firm believer in look good, feel good. So the first tip I would give to anyone who is seeking a new position, whether it's in teaching or a new job, is to dress up, get ready, look good. Wear something that makes you feel good, but appropriately, of course. Now I know that the DOE has no strict guidelines on what teachers should wear. However, please don't show up in cropped jeans or a cropped top. Now, it sounds funny and you may laugh, but individuals have done this. And when you do that, it sends the wrong message to the administrators who are interviewing you. Now, you may be a phenomenal person, a great person, but they won't get to see that because people judge you by your appearance, whether we want to accept this or not. So on your interview, please show up dressed appropriately in something that makes you feel confident, that shows your best personality, highlights your best traits professionally. You can find lots of videos and resources here on YouTube on how to dress appropriately for your interview, no matter what field it is that you're entering. So for teachers, I would say watch a few of those videos, and when all else fails, a nice button-down shirt and some dress pants does the job. Or you can get a wonderful dress like this, cost effectively. I got this from Banana Republic and it was on sale. So there are options available for you. Normal setting outside of a pandemic, you would be going in person to interview with your ideal company, however, or your ideal school. However, being that we are facing a pandemic and we're social distancing, a lot of interviews these days are done online. So all of my tips and advice today can be used outside of the online platform, but it can also be used on the digital platform. So I'm going to share with you some things that worked really great for me in securing, or should I say, getting the offers that I have received for my new teaching positions. The first thing you're going to need for your interview is, you already know, a resume and a cover letter. Now, if you're not a resume expert like myself or a cover letter writing expert like myself, there are resources that you can find online here on the YouTube platform as well, best tips and advice on how to write a resume, or you can contact your local community center to see if they have any advisors present on how to write a resume. There are lots of opportunities online. Right there in the Google search engine, there are workshops, free workshops sometimes, one of which I attended, that will give you advice on how to write your resume. Now, one key important tip for resume writing is that you want to tailor your resume to the needs of the school or the job that you're applying for. For example, in one of the jobs that I applied for, and really in all of them, it was important for them to bring someone on board that had experience with curriculum designing and curriculum planning. Now, because I have this experience and because I know that this was a need of the school based on their guidelines, I incorporated this into my resume, stating my experience in creating and developing curriculum aligned to the New York standards, as well as lead teaching experience. Whatever it is that that job is looking for, read through the guidelines, read through the qualifications, and make sure the language that is on the guidelines matches the language on your resume. Highlight your strengths. Highlight how you have brought solutions to present or past problems within the practices. So you want to tailor your resume to the needs of the job. The next thing is your cover letter. Now, your cover letter should not regurgitate what's on your resume, but what it should do is introduce yourself, share a little about your interest in this particular school or organization. What is it about about them that draws you in or speaks to your purpose and core values, as well as share a little bit more about yourself or your experience that is not on your resume. So you're giving them a teaser, you're giving them a taste of who you are, what you bring forward, and then when they get into the resume, they will be able to see all of your experience. And again, if you're not the expert in resume and cover letter writing, you can find so much resources here on YouTube as well as on the internet and workshops all around you. So invest in yourself, get that resume worked on, and then you move into the next step of preparing for your interviews. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago about dressing up and looking good so you can feel good. I'm going to add to that with saying that you want to start off, when you get into this interview process, you want to start off exuding confidence. Remember, you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So while we do want a job, and you will get the job, you don't want to come out looking desperate. Let desperation not drip from your pores. You need to exude confidence, confidence in who you are, confidence in your abilities, and confidence that you are the person for this job if this is the job that you want. And if this is not the job that you want and you're just practicing to get practice in, still come off confident because you're building these muscles now. Still practice that confidence so when you sit in front of your ideal school and opportunity, you are ready. Do your research. Do your research on the school, do your research on their values, and make sure that this aligns with your own. Come in with questions. You want to have some questions to ask at the end of your interview because that shows that you are just as much as interested in the organization as they are in you. Now, I'll tell you, personally, it does not seem that difficult to secure a job in the Department of Education. And I say this because there's so many schools that have a lot of vacancies because we need teachers. So it's just a matter of finding the right school for you. I am going into my third school. That means in almost 5 years, I have changed schools 3 times. Each school has their pros and cons. I don't believe there's a perfect school, but do a lot of research ahead of time so you can know what you're getting into. You can find colleagues on LinkedIn. You can find the schools sometimes have Facebook pages where you could privately message a contact who may be willing to speak with you on the phone to share a little bit about the school culture, about what they like most about or like least about the school, so you have an idea of what you're getting into. And if you don't have access to an actual person to give you some advice and feedback, research as much as you can online, and come in prepared with some questions to ask and some questions that show your interest. 3 questions that I have here that I will share with you that I have used recently in my interviews. 3 questions. Now, these are not I would not title them as the most important questions to ask, but there are 3 questions that I asked based on my needs and my desires as an educator. So one of those questions were, what resources does the school provide teachers? And I asked this question because I want to know, will you be able to give me supplies for my students? Does the school have a stationery section or a stationery department or store that will bring supplies to me? Can I fill out a supplies sheet should I need it? Or do I have to buy all my resources on my own? This question also is directed to professional development sessions for teachers. If this is a new school that is just launching, what sessions do you have in place to make sure that teachers are crafting within their practice the school's vision? Another question I would ask is, what's the school's perspective on discipline? Now, this is a good one because I have had the experience where the school had no perspective on discipline. It was let the child go, let them be how they are, we understand. And then it would all fall back on the teacher. And I have also had the experience of let's hold a circle without there being any groundwork for students to understand what restorative circle means and how to build community based on this circle. So what is the school's perspective on discipline? This is important for me to know walking in. Will I be handling behaviors all by myself as well as calling and contacting parents, which can become frustrating? Or is there a system in place that when a student is experiencing a difficulty or a challenge, we can incorporate the system to bring the student back to focus and bring everything back to harmony within the classroom and within the school. So it's important for you to know what system does the school have in place for discipline. That's my second question that I have asked. The third question, which is also important to me, is there flexibility in curriculum design? Because although a school may say experience in building curriculum, they may mean a curriculum has already been made and they just need you to tailor it or tweak it a little bit based on standards, or they may mean that you are building curriculum from scratch, but they already have resources that they want you to merge together. So I always want to ask the question, or if it's a school that does not state anything about curriculum, I want to know going in, how much flexibility do I have to make this my own? Do you need me to stick to the curriculum that the school has purchased, resources that the school is giving me, or can I pull from outside? Can I pull from my own materials to work these lessons, tailor these lessons for the needs of my students? So what's my flexibility in this? That's a question that I would ask. So whatever is important to you, whether you're a new teacher or a seasoned teacher, these are questions that you want to come in asking about the school. You can also ask about the school's involvement in the community. Think about those questions that you want to ask. Now we're going to talk about common questions that you may be asked on an interview. Common questions and scenarios. I'm going to give you 5 of them. So the first question that usually comes off the bat in the beginning of the interview is, so tell me, why do you want to work for this school? Already you should have done some research to have an idea about what the school's vision is. What's the school's heartbeat? And by doing this research, you will now be able to share how that connects to you, how that connects to your purpose, and why it is that you are so passionate that you're a great fit for this school, as well as this school is a great fit for you. I've been asked that question before, and when I'm asked that question, I speak specifically to the passion of the school's resources, what I've read that they have offered online. If I may have done a tour at a sister school, I speak about my experience there, how it connected with me, and how I would like to further contribute to that. So make sure you do your research ahead of time, so when they hit you with so why do you want to work for the school? You are prepared and ready. Question number 2. Tell me about yourself.
Hello, may I speak with Miss James, please?
This is Miss James speaking.
Hi, Miss James. We got your email last night, and I don't know if you got our email back, but we're doing interviews right now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure you're ready, Miss James? I'm just calling you right now. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. I am ready. I am ready for an interview right now.
First question, Miss James. Tell us about yourself.
All right, I am Miss James. I've been living in the Bronx over 10 years, and I am so passionate about life. I am inspired by the things around me, and I just know that I'm going to be an incredible teacher for the students that will be before me. No. Tell me about yourself. It's a very interesting question. You want to approach this question not just talking about when you were born or where you're from, but no, tell them about yourself, about your experience. Tell them about a challenge that you may have overcome that connects to why you're so passionate about teaching, that connects to why you believe that you can help these students, that connects to why you have mentored and coached so many individuals around you, even when you weren't their lead mentor, whether it's teaching or in your life. What empowers you? What motivates you? What encourages you and gives you this fire and desire to thrive? Speak to that when you are asked to tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself in what you have overcome and how this connects to what you want to do, and how this connects to how you're going to save and change the lives of the individuals that will be before you. So come from a place of strength. The third question, what are your weaknesses? Now you want to say, well, I don't have a weakness, because this is a tough question. Why would I be vulnerable in telling you that I have an area of weakness when this should be a conversation about my strengths? But we understand as human beings that no one is perfect. And a lot of times, sometimes schools want to know ahead of time what may be the areas that you need growth in, and how they're pairing you with individuals that may be able to assist you in this manner, or how you will be able to handle situations should they bring these conditions or situations to you. For example, at one of the interviews, I was asked what was my weakness. Now, I had to think of something on the spot because this was a question that I did not expect. And I had my response was, oftentimes I believe that my perspective is the best when it comes to solutions for my students. And I have learned that although I may know my students well to say this may be the best approach for them, I have also had to learn to take other people's opinions and suggestions into consideration. So building a new level of teamwork. I am a team player, always have been, but there are always areas and opportunities to grow, especially when it comes to releasing your own vision, my own vision for the way in which something to be done, and allowing it to be a collaborative effort in my classroom. So this is something that I have shared. Even though this is a question about your weaknesses or areas for growth, speak about it in strength. Speak about it confidently. Speak about past experiences that you have realized that, hey, this was not your strongest area. And not just leave it there, take it further by saying what you did to ensure growth in that area and how you are still working on the growth in that area. Don't just say time management and leave it there, because now you have stated that you have accepted the area of weakness or the area of growth and you're doing nothing about it. But state it from a point of strength and talk about what you're doing to improve in that area. 4, teaching scenario. Oftentimes in interviews, you're gonna get questions about teaching scenarios. Peter walks into your classroom 15 minutes after the bell rings. He ignores the fact that there are handouts on the table, walks right past you, sits down, and puts his head on the desk. What would you do? And now you would share how you would approach the situation with Peter. I encourage teachers, I encourage myself to come from a least punitive measure to approach the situation from an empathetic place, empathizing with the student, understanding that the student may have had a tough time before coming to school. He may have woken up late. He may have missed the bus. Someone in the house may have been ill, and now here he is frustrated. He's late for class, he's overwhelmed, and not to be rude, his intent is not to be disrespectful to you, but he has his own situation going on that he just needs a timeout. This could be a possibility, so to always come from a place of empathy as teachers when approaching the students and less punitive. Another scenario that I have had, it is after school. You have to work on your lesson plan with your co-teacher. You also have to prepare to lead a team meeting on Monday, and it's a Friday afternoon, and Sarah is at your door waiting to ask you if you could help her with something. What would you do? You're on a time crunch. What would you do, and in what order? Now, in the scenario with Sarah, the first thing I would do is to take care of Sarah. My students' needs are the most important thing for me at that present moment, because God forbid Sarah leaves the school and something happens, because at that moment she really needed a listening ear, but I was so caught up in whatever I had to do that, you know, God forbid something happens. So at that moment, I would take care of Sarah first. Sarah, honey, what do you need at this moment? Listen, share my advice. If possible, if the needs be to contact a parent, I will. If I need to contact the guidance counselor or the counselor or the family service person, I will do so. But it is important to show that you prioritize student needs before anything else. So that's my advice when it comes to a scenario, and that's my advice when it comes to sharing about your weakness as well as your strength and why it is that you want to work for the school. The fifth one, I love this one. Prepare yourself. If you're not a new teacher and you're shifting into another year of teaching, prepare yourself for this question. Why are you leaving your old school? That's a good question. Don't say that on the interview. Why are you leaving your old school? When you're asked this question, they are evaluating your work ethic. They are evaluating your relationships with the past people at your school. They are taking into consideration what may have transpired, why it is you're shifting from one school to another, and making sure that they're now not taking on what could potentially be another conflict. Be transparent. If you had a rough experience at your previous school, whether it's with colleagues or administration, do not person bash, because that will reflect negatively on you. And I know colleagues who have went into interviews complaining about how the last school treated them. You do not want to do that, because your interviewers will know that if you are doing that about your last school, you will potentially do that about them and continuously cause problems. So you want to come from a place, again, of confidence and strength and from a growth mindset. So what would I do? I am leaving my old school because I am looking for opportunities of growth. My previous experience has been at the middle school level. I am licensed at the high school level, although my license is 7 to 12. I have not been teaching in my content area for the past few years. I've been teaching in the general science area, and now I am finally challenging myself and making that shift into the content that I should have been teaching in the first place. I've built great relationships at my previous schools. Some of them will be willing to speak for themselves and recommend me. And at this moment, I am looking for greater opportunities for growth. I have coached, I have mentored, and this is the reason why I'm shifting from my previous school, because I am now challenging myself to grow and develop new skills, as well as stand in front of a new population of students, teaching them a course or a content area that has been the most challenging for many. This is how I would go about answering that question in my scenario. Now, I have had previous interviews where in the second school that I went to, I was coming from a first school where administration was very challenging, as well as the work environment was very toxic. Now, when I was asked the question, why are you leaving your old school? I did not respond, oh, because they treated me badly as well as my colleagues. No. Why am I leaving my old school? Again, I am leaving because I am looking for opportunities to grow and challenge myself within the science realm, as well as possibly teaching one or another new course. I am interested in adding math to my experience, since I do some math intervention as well. So I'm just giving examples as to why, your why for why you're leaving your school, for whatever reason it is. If it's because of proximity, that's something you can speak to, but don't leave it as, oh, it's too far for me, because then that shows that you're not willing to put in the work when times get challenging to meet your goal. So whatever you do, speak from a point of confidence, speak from a point of strength, and again, that growth mindset. Now's the fun part, your references and talking about this portfolio. References. Now, schools oftentimes, it's very common that they will want to contact your previous principal or assistant principal to ask about your work performance. I will admit that it is very tough when this happens, especially if you have had negative experiences from your previous school. If you are uncomfortable with a new school contacting your old school, share that with them, in addition to giving them resources or references, should I say, from either previous work experience, a mentor, a colleague, a college professor that can speak about your work ethic and speak about your performance. So if you're not comfortable with them contacting your old school, give them references from a previous work or your college professor or someone in administration, non-AP, non-principal, possibly a dean, who can speak great things on your behalf. Once again, I have had the experience shifting from the first school where there was a lot of toxicity, so therefore I was very uncomfortable with any of those second interviews for the second school calling or contacting the previous school. So in that case, I supplied them references from my previous work experience. And not all schools ask for references. This is just something that some of them do, especially now that we are doing virtual interviews. Oftentimes they want to get someone else's opinion on who you are and how you work well. Let your work speak for itself. Now, when I say this, I'm talking about your portfolio. Now, in a perfect world, or should I say without the pandemic, we would have been walking into the interview space, handing them a binder, say, hey, here's my resume, here's my cover letter, here's a sample lesson, take a look at it, and if possible, here's my ratings for the school year. But given that we do not have in-person interviews at this moment because we're social distancing, everything is being done online. Normally you would be doing a sample teaching. If you were in person, they would ask you, depending on the time of year that you interview, to come in, and they would have a small sample of kids that you would teach a demo lesson to. Now, in my case, or in your case, if you're watching this video during this pandemic and you are doing virtual interview, there are no opportunities for lessons unless you're teaching online, depending on what part of the school year it is that you are going through your interviews. So in my case, I did not have a demo lesson, but what I did have was a sample video from my Ed TPA where I was teaching and having a conversation with the kids. So I have incorporated that into my digital portfolio, which I will show you briefly what that looks like. So here we have 5 folders within my teaching portfolio. And my 5 folders are my cover letter, my sample instruction, virtual best practices, my ratings, and professional development. That was a basic sample of my digital portfolio. There is still much work to be done, but I wanted to put together something really quickly as I went through the virtual interview process that would let my work speak for itself. If you're a new teacher and you do not as yet have a portfolio, what I would suggest is to create a folder, create something that has your resume, your cover letter, challenge yourself to write a sample lesson. And in your sample lesson, you will have some standards. So what is it that you're teaching? What's the goal of the lesson? What would you like the kids to learn by the end of the lesson? How are you assessing that? How will you know that they have learned this lesson? How are you monitoring students' understanding throughout the lesson? And what materials or resources are you using to teach this lesson? When you've secured the offers, when they've all interviewed you and you've got multiple offers coming your way, how do you choose? My advice to you in choosing would be to align yourself with the school that aligns with your core values, with who you are, and where you see yourself growing and blossoming within the next few years. I would tailor it down based on core values, based on opportunities, and at the very least, if there's nothing else that can help you to decide where to go, start looking into the proximity. But these are some suggestions that I would give you in terms of choosing when you have secured those interviews, secured those offers, secured, as many would say, the bag. Narrow it down based on your core values. Time and time again, we hear it. Trust the process, that all things will work together for your good, and that the best school for you that you need at this moment to grow and glow will find you. Patience is important, but as I mentioned earlier in this video, if you're seeking for opportunities within the Department of Education, you will find, because there are so many schools that have so many vacancies, especially in the Bronx and Brooklyn. So keep looking. You may have to travel a distance. And wherever you live, maybe it's not in New York City, you may have to travel a distance. Find the boroughs that are the high needs areas and secure your first job there. You can always look for experiences as time passes, but I guarantee you, you will find something. So trust that this process will work in your favor, and at the very least, as you're going through this interview process, think about it as building muscle. You're building that confidence muscle. So when you sit in front of that ideal school, that school's vision that you love, you will be ready. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm gonna leave you with the 3 P's. As I was thinking about how to close this video off and leave you with some motivation, thought about the 3 P's. And those 3 P's are posture, poise, and position. Okay? Show up, posture up in that interview. That's your confidence. Show up, postured. You've already got this. It is yours. If this is what you want, it is yours. Be poised, cool, calm, and collected. Position yourself for what it is that you desire by securing these interviews, by showing up poised and polished, wearing something that makes you feel confident, speaking confidently, taking the time to think about what you want to say before you say it, coming from a place of strength, coming from a place of positive growth mindset. So poise, posture, position. Let desperation not drip from your pores. All right, guys, thank you so much. Love and blessings as always. Secure the jobs, secure the bag. And when you do, leave a comment in the comment section below to tell me how these tips or these advice or my experience has helped you. Love and blessings.